Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Roots Refuge Farm, where I have now emerged from a couple of gloriously lazy days. I'm out on the farm with, where'd he go? Oh, there he is, with Bear, my trusty sidekick. I'm walking over here because I just saw a hawk, and she flew into my big epic tree when I walked out, and then as I started walking over here, it's flown over to another tree. I'm hoping to get up close enough to get a good look at it. It has rained here non-stop for the last 2.5 days. I mean, we're so saturated. This is just out in the middle of the field. So look, you can see where the chickens have fertilized different areas. I don't have a zoom lens on my camera, so I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to capture this bird. It's sitting right at the top of this tree. Oh, there it goes. Oh, man. So we have a pair of hawks, and I notice them more during this time of the year. It just took off across the pond. Yeah, it's coming, it's gone. So my friend Sunflower Steve is a falconer, and when he came to visit, he told me some information. He said that the hawk was a red-tailed hawk. He said that the one, at least that was here at that point, was a female. And I assume that it's the same pair that comes back. We'll see them throughout the year, but especially during this time of year. They're here and moving a lot. We do keep our chickens out in these electric nets in the middle of the pasture. And we make sure that, like, they're never under any trees or anything where a bird of prey could light on a branch and then swoop down in. And this typically does help us from losing birds to keep them like this. Oh my gosh, look at all the water in here. That's ridiculous. One of the most challenging principles to wrap my head around in permaculture was the idea that a balanced ecosystem is the most productive way to grow food. Because, you know, if you have any exposure to like farming or animal husbandry or gardening, there's so much talk about like basically the bad animals, the hawks, the coyotes, the rabbits, the voles, like all of these different things, and how obviously these things can come in and hinder our harvest. But for so long, just kind of being in the homesteading world without thinking of permaculture, because I had no idea what permaculture was when we started. I just wanted the romantic farm life thing. And so many people like, just shoot it, just get rid of it. But what happens whenever you throw an ecosystem out of whack, it shows somewhere else. So, I mean, when it comes to birds of prey like hawks, they greatly help keep the rodents in check on a farm like this. So we try to keep our chickens in a way that they're not as prone to being damaged by hawks. Now, we set our pasture up with a very similar chicken setup some months ago with a coop and an electric fence, and gave them some chickens. And they recently had a hawk figure out that the electric door opens at sunrise, and this hawk would be sitting on the handle of their chickshaw when the door opened. And he got one of their birds, and they went and they turned off the electric door, and they put up a scarecrow. They covered the top of their chicken coop with like foil, and then they hung like metal pans around, and the hawk hasn't been back. So they still get the benefit of the rodent protection, you know, protection from the rodents, but they don't have to sacrifice their chickens to get it. I think the hawks are beautiful. I think it's really awesome, but they also don't kill my chickens. What did you find? You know, when you have a farm dog, it's always a precarious thing when they're chewing on something. That is a hunk of hoof from when the horses and cows get their hooves trimmed. The dogs will find them and chew on them. I will tell you guys that post-Christmas, even though this garden is still dreary and not much to look at, I walk in and all I see is potential. Because it's now time to think about gardening, and I'm so happy. Actually, it's time to think about reclaiming my greenhouse from the mess that it becomes in the off season. I don't know that I'm going to do that today. Last night, okay, here's a little insight to how, you got a little fuzz there. I woke up at like, I don't know, it was the middle of the night. And I actually keep this app blocker on my phone to block like social media apps and stuff. I have a hard time turning my mind off. I always have. I've always been, if I've been asleep for like at least 3 or 4 hours, if I wake up, like there's a very good chance that I'm going to stay awake for a couple hours just thinking. And so I keep all my apps blocked so that I'm not tempted to get sucked into social media or something stupid and regret it the next day when I'm exhausted. I try to like make myself go back to sleep. But inevitably what happens is I wake up and I'll just lay there and think. And so I've got my notes app. It's available, like it can still be used. And this morning I woke up after whatever time I spent awake in the middle of the night thinking. And I have this long list of seed starting videos and different like buying guides and like all these different things that I thought of in the middle of the night. And it's hilarious to me. I don't know about you. But as soon as the conclusion of Christmas comes, it's garden time to me. That's just how my brain works. I just switch over and I'm thinking about the garden. I think I'm going to do this project in a little while. This is definitely like one of the next things on my list. I need to bring some trash bags out here and just kind of completely overhaul the space. Oh, hey, avocado kitty. Y'all see my peppers got toasted. I mean, by that, I mean frozen. They're dead. I kind of quit worrying about shutting this door because these peppers really weren't tasting very good. I was actually in the middle of doing something when I saw the hawk and got distracted. I've got some beets. I picked a bunch of beets when I was making Christmas dinner, or Christmas Eve dinner. I made this beet and burrata salad. I think I've got a couple things I'm going to change on it next time. Once I nail down like exactly how I want it to be, I'll share the recipe with you guys over on the farmer's table. Some of the beets I picked had some like gross spots in them, and I left them out here. I was going to take them to the pigs. Here we go. So with these beets, I'm putting this down. It is so wet. It is so wet out here. I don't want my butt to be wet. With these beets, I could probably salvage some of these, but we have a whole lot growing. We have more growing. Even though I could pick off some of the good greens and I could cut some chunks off, I'm just going to give those few beets to the pigs. Bear is so happy to be like out farm dogging it because it started raining Christmas Eve night, so it's now 2 days after Christmas, and it has rained almost non-stop. When it hasn't been actively raining, it's been like drizzling. So the dogs have been largely in the house. Let's see. Better not. I'm not trying to get stuck in the side-by-side on this video. Oh, pigs. These guys are gonna get moved soon. They are filthy. They have a dry side, but obviously that's not where they want to be. Hey, I brought you a Christmas beet. So we have this tradition we started a handful of years ago for our kids because, you know, Jeremiah and I were in ministry for years, and it required a lot during the Christmas holiday, season. We spent just tons of time at the church and with people, and we realized at some point that our kids kind of got the scraps of us. Like it was just so spread thin. It was just going from house to house. It was so many parties. It was so much stuff. And we decided to start this thing where we did super fancy Christmas dinner. And the idea is we have a Christmas party for our kids. And when we started this, they were obviously much younger than they are now. And it's Christmas Eve, and it's for our kids. We dress up. Like, Jeremiah and I do like black tie. Like we go all out and dress all the way up. Like floor length dress for me. This year I had a fur, it's not real fur, but a stole, like a white furry stole with a red dress. And the idea is we just like host this dinner party for our kids, and I cook really good food and fancy stuff that we wouldn't typically necessarily eat I mean like a beet and burrata salad, we would eat that whenever. But let's see, it was beet and burrata salad was the first course, and then I did she crab soup, which is a South Carolina recipe of sherry crab soup. It's really good. It's kind of a bisque. And then I did steaks with herb crusted roasted little new potatoes and maple roasted carrots. And then desserts, I'm not great at cooking desserts. I don't cook a lot of sweet stuff just because I can't eat a lot of that stuff, but I've never been particularly great at baking. It's just, I just don't have the attention for it. I can do it if I put my mind to it, but so I got some little creme brulee things at Costco. We joke that Chef Costco makes our fancy Christmas dinner desserts, but it was really awesome. It was a really good time. And in harvesting the beets for that was whenever I found those ones that were just a little wonky. I just came out into the mushroom forest. I got some oysters out here. These are mulberry oysters. Those are really too old to use. These may be on the brink of it. So Will and I have been discussing something, and we'll see how it goes. It's been our desire here, Maya and me, from the very beginning of starting to develop this farm. We want to be able to hold like hands-on workshops out here. We haven't done a lot of events and workshops because we don't really have the infrastructure in place. Now, building his shop, ooh, a shiitake. Oh, nice. This is only my second one of these. I missed this other one. It got ripe during Christmas and I did not come out here in the rain. So I'm just going to leave it there. But nice. But, you know, Will has been with us now for almost 2 years. We met Will when we found our land. We were still in Arkansas, obviously. We were getting ready to move here. And Will reached out because at the time he was working for DHEC permitting septic tanks, and he and his family had watched our channel for a couple years, and he reached out and said, hey, if there's any way I can help. Just so happened that he reached out literally 30 minutes after we sat around with our family around the dinner table eating dinner, and we were so stumped on the septic tank thing, and we were hitting all these roadblocks, and we're trying to make a 720-mile move, and my dad had just got diagnosed with cancer. Like all these things that were going on that we were so overwhelmed. We were hitting major walls with the septic thing because there were questions we didn't know how to answer, and that was like our first step of developing the property was we needed the septic permit. And we'd sat around the table and like prayed, like help us please. We don't know what to do. And then we get this message from Will, who obviously has now worked for us for the last couple years, and it's been a huge blessing in a lot of ways. But he and I have been discussing doing a couple of hands-on mushroom inoculation workshops. They're going to be pretty extensive events, and we're working out some dates over the course of the next couple of months. Get on our email list if that's something that you would be interested in. We cannot possibly service tons of people on these things because we just don't have the space. However, we can service some people, and I'm sure the tickets will sell super fast. It's going to include the logs, obviously the class, the spawn, a meal. He's going to teach the class. I'm going to cover the logistics and cook for everybody. We're looking at doing that here coming up really soon. So keep your eye out if it's something that you would be interested in. Down the road, we're building Maya's shop. That's very high on the project list. We have planned our whole farm with having in mind being able to bring people out for butchering workshops, for different teaching things. And of course, we want to transfer that when we get Carolina Homestead Exchange up and running. A lot of that stuff will happen down there. But we really want to be able to do like hands-on learning out here. And this is one of those things that like, I'll never complain about the burden of abundance. It is incredible. It's like in July when the tomatoes come in. You're amazed, you're excited, you're overwhelmed, you're happy, you're thankful. It's everything you're working on. But you're also sometimes just, I don't know about you. If you've been gardening very long with a very big garden, you have probably sat in front of a kitchen table mounded with produce and cried a little. Like, it can be massively overwhelming. And that's what it feels like sometimes with like trying to provide services for such a large audience. It's so beautiful and so wonderful and so incredible, but you don't want to disappoint people, and it can be massively overwhelming. So the mushroom classes are going to be kind of like a first foray into that, and I'm hoping because it's so niched down, you know, it will be a little easier to service the people who are interested in taking place in those workshops. Plus, it gives me an opportunity to kind of help Will to get something off the ground that really allows him to share the brilliant knowledge he has. I mean, I'm going to be right there learning as well because I feel such a student on mushrooms. But I'm a student with the shiitake. So exciting. Will has been cutting down little oak trees on our property and on his, and getting them prepared for mushroom inoculation, because a lot of mushrooms that we're wanting to grow, they grow on hardwoods. So after fancy Christmas dinner, I had the most gloriously lazy Christmas and day after that I think we've ever had. Because it was raining, you know, my kids couldn't really go out and do any of the outside things the day after Christmas. We were planning on going up to North Carolina and looking at lights and visiting the Biltmore and stuff like that, but we were so wiped out, and it has been such a pressing season. And we talked to the kids and we were like, what do you guys think about just like literally staying home and staying in our pajamas and doing absolutely nothing productive? And they were like, yes, please. So yesterday I read a book the entire day. I got up and made breakfast, coffee. I heated up leftovers. One thing I like to do because Christmas is so demanding is usually a day or two before Christmas. Usually it's a couple days before. I'll make a really big pot. This year was beef stew. Sometimes I'll do chicken and dumplings. Like something that can be made in mass and then reheated well. And then on Christmas Day, we do our Christmas breakfast, which is kind of like a traditional thing. And then I just get that soup out and set it on the stove and just heat it up. We're putting in the oven, in the Dutch oven. And that's what we'll eat on Christmas, like afternoon. Of course, everybody's got like snackies, and they'll snack throughout the day. And then the day after, we'll eat it too. So my kids are sick of beef stew right now. That's all they've eaten for 2 days. But one day I made a pot of rice with it. Yesterday, one of the few times I got up from reading my book, I made a cake of cornbread to go with beef stew. But it was great, man. I feel, you know how sometimes you'll have something like a lazy day and you'll be like, oh, I needed that. I definitely needed that. Which is launching me into my planning. I feel like a maniacal person that's just like obsessively thinking about gardening and what's next on the farm. Are you being a stinker? Are you so happy to be outside? Are you just so happy to be running? Oh my goodness. Why? No, 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 no. Oh no. So bad. Oh, bear. Buddy. That's 3 days worth of muddiness compounded in one fell swoop. I actually have a really hard time after Christmas with the reality that like winter isn't over. I'm like, dang, I still have to deal with this cold, nasty weather for another few months. That doesn't feel very fair. Oh, at least there's cabbage though. Check these beauties out. I finally let my sprouting broccoli go. It was just, I had picked a whole bunch of it, but I was having a hard time keeping up with it. And we had cooked it quite a bit. It sure is pretty in here. So as I make my lists for the next couple weeks content, I have a few things that I've been planning on doing, and in the busyness of the holiday I have not been able to do well, so I just haven't done it. But if you have any gardening questions that you would like for me to address in video form, I would love to know them. It can be a little bit hard when you've been doing the same kind of content for several years, because the truth is that I've probably covered it at one point or another. it feels like that sometimes. I feel like, oh, I'm saying the same things over and over. But there are new gardeners every year, and I want to welcome them with fresh content, and I would love to hear what you guys would benefit from, what you would find helpful. Because this is really the first year that we're not like actively really building the garden. We are finishing up some projects, but they're, for the most part, I mean, they're mostly aesthetic projects. We're doing arbors and fences and, you know, finishing some of the cosmetic things. But for the most part, the soil is pretty established. It's all in place. I feel more grounded going into this gardening year than I have since we've lived here, which is really, really nice. And I'm really excited about it. You know, we dealt with the contaminated soil out here, and of course building, and now I feel like I'm actually getting to garden my whole garden in just a more normal way. Oh, this is beautiful. Isn't this purple cabbage stunning? Just this color, for this to be just a naturally occurring color, it really just takes my breath away. Some of my favorite garden pictures that I've taken are pictures of leaves of purple cabbage. It's just fascinating, don't you think? This kale variety bed is pretty impressive also. Kale's one of those things that you pick at it a little bit and you're worried you're going to overdo it, and then it takes off and you can't keep up with it. We've picked so much kale off these plants. You can see it a little bit, you know, down around the bottom. There's about this much on the bottom of each one of these plants that the leaves are gone, but they start growing so fast you can't even really tell. Well, except for where Jackson harvests for the lizard, because he leaves the ribs. Do you want this vehicle? Oh, huh? No, you don't need it?
It's a nice one.
Shiitake. I told the people about our mushroom classes to get on the list to find out about it.
Yeah, get on the list.
Yeah, well, I figured we would share it on the email list when we're going to announce it so that people can get their tickets.
That'll do.
Yep. What are you drinking? Coffee?
Yeah.
Coffee drinks. That's Ethiopian.
Mushroom coffee.
Yeah.
Ethiopian mushroom coffee.
Yeah. All right, y'all. I'm going to head back up to the house, bathe my dog. Thank you for hanging out with me today. It's officially the time of year where we can still embrace rest, but also we can plan, and that makes me so happy. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and all the days that you do. I bless you. Until next time.